caught that in time. Did I catch in time? Oh yes, perfect. Thankfully everyone's going slow so I can get the stream started for the restart. And I just have to remind myself of how quali went. As obviously I wasn't the com then. Had a swap due to power issues, but that's not the main concern. The main concern is this race. So we get underway now. Bit of a slow reaction looked like for the Ferrari, but a great acceleration there. Absolutely storms it. As we go into the rear view, you can see the Alfa Romeo storms it up. Looks to go up there inside, but there's lots of contact. Surprisingly, I don't see any spinners back there. They've done well to not spin, but lots of contact has given Tomos nearly a second lead already at the start. Oh, there is a spinner, and that is Graceful Rook. And another one, there's two actually. Arrow and Typo into the wall there. That's unfortunate. I had a similar experience. Turn 1 is always carnage, especially at these more downforce based tracks. And you can see that Haas gets taken out as he tries to make it 3 wide. That's buzzed down. You can see Harrison, he seemed to have an unfortunate qualifying. He is up a few places from where he started, but he had to go off track there. Currently starts P11. Oh, Aston Martin the dive bomb since Connor packing, and that's 2 places lost for Connor. As the Aston Martin actually runs wide. Is he going to come back on and hit him? He's going to look to fight this back, and he turns in on him, and he's back past the McLaren, but that's controversial from the Aston Martin, getting the elbows more than out in this first lap. He's absolutely swinging at these other drivers. Not quite the approach, I think, is very legal. We'll jump to the front then as things start to spread out. So calm down. Ooh, expert bubble thought about a move there on the Crob, and we've got another spinner, and again it's a Haas. I didn't quite get the good angle there, but Carlos Sainz, after being in the top 5, is down out of the points, all the way down in P14. It's an awful start for the Haas's, but he gets the move done back onto the Aston Martin, who seems to be struggling out there. Just loses the rear there. The Red Bull just about caught that. Manages to stay ahead of the Haas for now. The Haas goes off track, trying to avoid this Red Bull. Potential move. Actually going to see no moves made into the chicane. They were very close to each other. I wouldn't have been surprised to see one. Like I said, let's get back to the front. Oh, just caught that bright spun in the middle sector. Will he be able to remain in the points? No, he won't. He's actually going to drop all the way down to P15. That's about 10 positions lost for him. As he looks to now, he's just actually gotten himself a warning as he's desperately defending from the McLaren and Aston Martin behind as he looks to make a bit of a comeback here. Very talented driver. Oh, was that another spin? I just nearly caught there. People are really struggling in these conditions. One of them, people being Graceful, that's Ross, sorry, Graceful Rook's teammate, going wide at the final corner, invites some overtakes. Carlos Sainz back into P13, right on the rear of points, which is the Red Bull at the minute. But there's a big gap ahead of that, as the top 10 seems to be so far fairly consistent. Well, I said that, and Braid unfortunately had a moment, and he's definitely a driver I would have put the top 5. A little bit of wheel banging from these two as they go wheel wheel. Can he make it happen? Obviously not, and that sends the Red Bull packing as he tries to stick it back down the inside of the Haas. That was never going to work, and it just went the Haas's way, unfortunately, for IVR Flame. Let's jump ahead as we've got a big gap from 10th to 9th. We'll see Harrison looking to make some places. Doesn't seem to be too comfortable out here in these conditions. You mentioned that in the chat, but he's got the 2 Alpines squabbling ahead, which is actually allowing him to stick on the back of them despite struggling. We've got penalties for Bright and Osimhen Jones. Bright clearly making his own driving lines, struggling. Oh, Oh, it's a safety car. I was wondering what happened there. I missed that. I think that's for your boy Alfie, who's just retired in the first sector. And for the Aston Martins, it's an absolute shambles. It just gets worse and worse as they drop down the order, and now a DNF. But gives us time to close back the gaps. As you can see, there's massive gaps already, like 3 seconds from 5th to 4th. And a second from 3rd to 2nd. The front runners have had a bit of a quiet race. And for everyone else, it's been absolutely carnage in the wet Angara ring. Oh. Ooh, drive through for Krob. He's looking to... Oh, actually, wait, it was a VSC, sorry, I didn't realise. So it's actually back underway. I should have been paying more attention. I thought it was a full course safety car. Only a VSC. Krob has managed to get himself a drive-through within them couple of corners that we were under the VSC. Neon actually comes into the pits. I don't know if he got damage under there or if the track's really starting to dry up now. And he thinks now is maybe a time to go on a dry. So it's definitely not wet. So I think if we pull up the tyres, I mean, yeah, Neon is under the medium tyres. The first of any driver, but actually a lot more coming in. So for Neon, this could be perfectly timed for him. And yet you see more and more drivers coming onto their medium tyres. So Neon has pulled an absolute blinder there, as he's going to get the undercut onto these front runners. They are setting faster sectors obviously as the track's drying up, and it actually looks bone dry now from Icecorm's POV, as he currently leads the race. As you can see there, Harrison up 8 positions, a great couple first laps for him, avoiding most of the carnage. DRS now enabled. This may actually stop Neon's undercut. Wait, no, never mind. I mean, it might, because when they come out of the pits, they will get DRS, that being Tomas and Expert Bubble. Expert Bubble actually sent a move, we didn't see that, and he's just forced the Ferrari off, gives the place back, so I doubt we'll see a penalty for Bubble, but actually he's now hit the switchback. The Tomas is really struggling. Was there damage there? And Expert Bubble has to cut the pit lane entry because he wants to get this overtake onto a very slow Tomas. I want to stay on his perspective, but we do have a double stack for Bubble and Icecorm, so even if he does pit for damage, he might get back ahead. Doesn't look like there's any damage, so he will re-overtake Expert Bubble. Magic McGee. Actually, they're all into the pits, so let's go on to Neon. As he comes down the main straight, will he get ahead? He will, and he's going to absolutely storm ahead into the lead of this race once again. Fantastic undercut from him, as the person behind him is 2 seconds behind on cold tyres. This gap's going to extend to nearly 3 seconds on top of a penalty. That is fantastically called from a very great driver. Neon, hats off to you, mate. And we've actually got a spin. Please don't tell me that's Harrison. It is. Harrison out of the points onto his fresh set of mediums. Ah, poor lad. So the tyres are all mediums apart from Osimhen Jones on softs. He can really create some carnage in that top 5, as he's going to be much quicker than all the other drivers. And then Ross G, who's decided to go into the hards. He's currently a back marker, but he will pit a lot later than most drivers. That could gain him some positions with a possible safety car. And Neon is spun! I told you. I said he's had such a great start to this race, an amazing call, and he's made a mistake. I don't want to say out to the commentator's curse, but I said hats off to you, and he's just went and completely ruined his own party there. He might have got a bit too excited, realising the play he'd made. Just a bit too trigger happy, and unfortunately that has led to a spin, but he's not too far behind. the gap to the lead is 3 seconds, but I think Icecomb has a penalty of 5 seconds for speed in the pit lane. So he will drop places. We're getting fastest laps towards the back marker, so we're actually in clean air. That's IFR Flair. He's looking to get back into this race after an earlier spin on the first lap. Bright goes even quicker. He's 10 seconds further back than Flair. And actually that's really unfortunate for Bright, because he put in the chat, he went in, he paused his game under the safety car to come into the chat, and his AI pitted, but for another set of intermediates. If that driver, the AI, would have pitted for mediums, Bright could have turned his race around right then and there, but unfortunately not. He just got very unlucky. You see Expert Bubble chasing down yet another Ferrari. See, doesn't quite recreate the move he made onto Tomas earlier on, 2 laps ago. We've got a spin, and that's Harrison once again in the middle sector. Maybe caught the sausage curb on the outside there, so you can see him get stuck, trying to get back on the track. He does, but he's down in 14th as he's ghosted. Bright bombs right through him, and that leaves Harrison back where he started the race. And I did see him hit a wall, so he may have damage as he looks very slow through these corners. We'll jump back to the front as the top 10 are all within just a couple of, well, apart from the lead out, well, apart from the penalty, he stormed it away, but from 2nd to 10th, we're all within just a couple of seconds. But specifically this battle from 2nd to 6th, it's starting to heat up a bit as Ozyman Jones gains closer and closer to the Ferrari. We've got another spin. Who is that? It's Bright. He has spun in the first sector. In fact, that was turn 1. Was there any contact there maybe? Because turn 1's not a place you usually find a spinner on their own. Harrison into the pit, leaves him in last place. But it's very early doors yet. Many laps, I should say, for a recovery drive. The Expert Bubble, he's honestly look fantastic. I'd say he's look very quick, but he just can't get a clean overtake. He's ridden the back of this Ferrari the whole lap nearly, which was a tricky thing to do in Hungary. Finally he uses his entire battery and DRS and can't get ahead, but Neon's disconnected. Oh, it just gets worse for Neon, as he was actually going to be able to defend against Expert there. You may get it back in AI mode, but no, as he's in ghost mode, Bubble can just stick it through. AI just doesn't have enough pace, and Neon, that's unfortunate. And he's going to quickly get overtaken by many drivers behind. Oh, Ozyman Jones is into the wall! And Anger gets a 3-second penalty for corner cuts as well, as he maybe even had to take a wider line because of the yellow flags. But he does gain ever so closer to the AI of Neon. Let's see how fast he gets back into the lobby. And for his sake, let's just hope he remains in the points, because he's looked very strong so far, despite the the one incident and then the disconnect that he's had. But Ozyman Jones is still struggling to get the car going. Now at turn 5, he has spun again into the chicane. That leaves him down in P15. But he's got a nice healthy lead behind him, except he's stopped on track again, I can see on the track map. And the Haas has now made the move past him. Ozyman Jones was 5th, now sits 16th on the soft tyres. You can see ahead, Tomas looks to the outside of the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo defends it beautifully so far, but with DRS he looks for the switchback. We see flashing on the Alfa Romeo, but he does manage to stay ahead into turn 2 here. Swiftly done through turn 3, uphill for turn 4. We've seen this part of the sector, we've seen a couple of spins just in the last couple of laps. Tomas is not really under too much pressure from Bibble behind, so he's free to attack the Alfa Romeo. He's really low on ERS and will not get DRS on the car ahead, as due to some ERS issues it looks like for the Alfa Romeo, the AlphaTauri is just running away with the lead. Obviously that penalty in the pit will come back to bite him. There we go then. into the final couple of corners where DRS will be wide open. Perfect overtaking opportunity for the Ferrari. He's got so much more ERS to play with. I don't even think Magic McGee has any chance of fighting this, although his straight line speed looks superior for now. And he manages to stay ahead through the first DRS zone. Through the second, Tomas plays it smart and actually saves his ERS, and he's just going to sit on the back for another lap behind Alfa Romeo. And he's actually under pressure now from Bubble. Bubble doesn't have that much ERS, to be fair, so I think he drained a bit down that straight to catch up. Oh, lucky to not catch the sausage curve there, Magic McGee. Just take a quick gander behind to see expert Bubble. I said this last time with Neon, he's just done such a good job of just sticking behind these drivers, putting the pressure on through the middle sector, and then maybe even running higher top speed and doing that. But we've got another spinner, and that's Raw Anger. Easily one of, I'd say, top 3 drivers in tier 4. Doesn't seem to be having the best of afternoons today. Down in P9 with a penalty also. Sits 6 seconds behind the McLaren ahead. IVR Flair has retired on track. Is that going to be a safety car? It is. Is that VRC or is that going to be a full course safety car? I don't know how bad the debris is. I'm going to try and get the ollie. The debris not on the track, but I mean, looks like a pretty nasty track. Pretty nasty crash for the Red Bull. Straight out of the session, off to the hospital he goes. And again, this is going to spice some things up. If you're Icecom, you want to go as early as possible, but pray you do not get another penalty, especially not a drive-through. So he looks to try and extend this gap over 5 seconds to maintain this lead, which so far he has. He's got a 2, 3, 4 tenth cushion actually. It's just gaining. I don't know what Magic McGee's doing. He's really saving his delta, and Icecom, I don't know if he's going to have to start slowing down soon for his delta, but he's just pulling a gap. Yeah, now the gap starts to come down. So I don't know how big the cushion he has is. Is he going to pit? We've got a drive-through for Carlos Sainz as we get back underway, as we begin the lap number 12, no, lap 13, sorry. Lap 13 already in this race, just under halfway. And we've had plenty of carnage already. 2 VSCs, a couple of drive-throughs, 2 DNFs. And we've got another spinner, and that is Harrison, and it just gets worse and worse, unfortunately. Don't know, I know he won in Austria at week 1, and it's just not what you'd expect from a race winner this early on in the season. Multiple spins for him. It's definitely cost him points at this race, as he was up and around about the P9 area and looked pretty strong to the cars ahead, but a couple spins has set him back. And after reading the tier 4 chat, I wouldn't be surprised to see a DNF. And I won. Oh, reset a track. I told you he's desperate to maintain this lead. He pushed it too hard to get out of the 5 second gap, puts him in a wall, and then actually resets the track. He's going to let his teammate pass, and this is going to cost him another 2 positions on top. And he's blocked the Williams. The Williams of Graceful Rock is going to look for a move. You will get it as the race leader pulls into the pits. And I was thinking it in my head. Lap 13, it's an unlucky number. And for Icecom, he's put it straight into a wall in the middle sector. And yeah, Harrison has retired, sadly for him, into the pits. That's no points for Mercedes, as there was only 1 driver for them this weekend. But this really spices up the race actually, with Icecom being out of it, because the gap is only 4 tenths now for Tomos to the race leader, Magic McGee. And like I mentioned, the ERS difference is at 30%. That's so much more battery for Tomos to utilise in a very hard overtaken track. If he can make this move stick, could be potentially looking at an early call for the race win if we don't see any more mistakes like we have done. We've got a spin at the final corner, I believe that's Ross G. Nothing crazy to be worrying about as he's all the way down in P15, 20 seconds behind. Here we go then, into the final corner, the long right-hander. Tomos actually looks at a bit of a wider entry to hopefully get on a better exit into the ERS. He's actually not using ERS. Magic McGee was, as he's now out of ERS. This is perfect for Tomos. If you can just keep it on track, keep it consistent, stick on the back of this Alfa Romeo, stick the pressure on, force him to waste every last bit of his battery, you're just going to walk away with this, because there's no way once the overtake happens that Magic McGee can save up enough ERS to force a move back onto Tomos, as he's just got that even more saved up. And then behind, Bubble is just falling off the pace as his ERS is also completely gone, and he's actually now fallen back into the hands of Neon, who looks to be back into the session, still in P4, so for him that's absolutely perfect. No, he hasn't dropped out the points in AI mode. I wasn't sure when he joined back, but he has maintained his top 5 slot. So he'll be, well, he obviously won't be happy as he would have been ahead of Bubble, but he's also, well, he's actually drained a lot of his ERS to catch back up. I was going to say he was another one with lots of ERS, but that was obviously before his AI has used it all, unfortunately. But here we go then, Tomos, he looks like he wants the move, he sees the red flash ahead of him. Uses about 15% ERS, which is more than what Magic McGee even had in his battery completely. Still can't make the move though, even with DRS. Another second helping of it. He taps the ERS to try and get a better exit, but he just can't get close enough to make a move on that Magic McGee here. It's beautifully defended from McGee. Well, I say beautifully defended, he hasn't really had to do anything, he's just had to keep it on track. And he's doing so perfectly. Expert Bubble is actually caught back up. And we've got a spin at turn 1, that's Buzz who was stopped on track. Oh, never mind. Carlos Sainz has actually stopped on track, he manages to get it back going and only loses 1 position. P9 now, 1.5 behind Bright ahead, who has a penalty. I think we'll stick on Bubble's perspective for quite a while, so we can see as he tries to edge closer, bit of a tighter line there, so the Ferrari will actually get a bit of a better run through the final couple of corners. Ross G, another 3-second penalty for him on the board. Shouldn't be any worry though that Osimhen Jones behind. But again, don't see a flash on the Magic McGee, so he has been able to save a bit more ERS over that lap. Bubble though, he's fully going for it, he's draining everything. Yeah, he's actually gaining more onto Tomos than Tomos is gaining onto McGee, and that's going to put him under pressure. As you can see, he's right on the gearbox of the Ferrari. Neon maybe made a mistake there as he's actually dropped behind Graceful Rook, but due to penalties he stays in P4 on merit. I think that's the right word, merit, something like that. Gross merit, it's one of the two. I know what I mean, I just don't know the word. But obviously not the focus is still this top 3 battle, all within a second of each other. So just halfway done now as we head at the halfway point, 17 laps in, halfway through that lap. Brilliant maths from me, just wanted to show that off there. They're just pulling away, honestly. These 3 just look absolutely clear from the rest of the grid. Well, I wouldn't say on complete pace, but currently in the race situation. We've got another spin, trying to see what that is. I think it's Typo. Oh no, it will be Galaxy Connor actually, Typo's teammate, who has binned it into the wall just as he heads into the final sector, and he's actually completely stopped on track. I want to get his angle. Finally gets it going. He only loses 2 positions, maybe 3. As now Carlos Sainz looks for his comeback. He gets back up ahead. Another little shake for Connor. Definitely has damage. He was really slow through that corner. Back to the front. Tomas wasn't able to make that move again. And he's actually on equal ERS with Magic McGee. I don't know how Magic McGee has managed to do this. I don't know what his setup is doing him absolute wonders here, because not only has he managed to stay ahead of the straight and through the corners, he's managed to gain back the ERS to Tomas whilst maintaining the race lead. And Bubble, he's going to have to start trying to save up some more, but he needs to stick within this 1 second gap as well, just to make sure he doesn't fall behind like he did a few laps ago. Carlos Sainz 3-second penalty. I think he's locked in a battle at the minute. No, he's not actually, but so he just got that penalty on his own, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, Bubble did fall back a bit there actually, through the final couple corners. Not able, I mean, I was about to say not able to be as close to Tomas as he was last lap, but he got really late on the brakes there. And again, he's just piling the pressure onto the Ferrari. We've got another big crash at that dreaded corner as we head in the final sector. But he keeps it moving, Arrow, and there won't be another safety car, thankfully, for these drivers in the front three who've looked to lock down the podium so far in this race as they start to head towards lapped cars. We've got another spin. It's XD Arrow again in the final corner as he heads into the final 2 corners. Pardon me. This battle's just heating up. The gap is actually starting to close down as we now have back markers who may even affect this. But for Magic McGee, he's lucky that Ghostin's on, but we've got a retirement in the pits. Okay, it's in the pits, so we shouldn't see a safety car. Will Magic McGee get DRS? I don't think so. I don't think the back marker was ahead just long enough for Magic McGee's benefit. I want to watch Tomas's POV as I don't see Bubble making a move yet. Just too far back, and that's also the same for Tomas, also just a bit too far back. Bubble actually looks to get on the inside as Tomas runs a bit wide, but it's just not happening for them. These 3 drivers, bit close there for Bubble. He's getting a bit impatient, we'll say, as he really wants to get ahead of Tomas. Because from when I've spectated him, I knew he was a top driver, but he just wasn't really getting the best results in qualifying, which set him up not very well for the race. He's getting unlucky here and there, and he sees himself having a chance to get in some really good points at the top 3, but that impatience and wanting some revenge on the rest of the league might just come back to haunt him. As maybe if it's just him taking out Tomas, that penalty will then set him back. And maybe even taking himself out will obviously set him back. So he's just got to remain calm like Tomas has been doing, just sitting on the back of Magic McGee, waiting for other drivers to make mistakes. But actually, Bubble comes into the pits. I've told you the impatience, and he wants to try and make the move, this time through pit stops, as he looks for the undercut on the 2 race leaders. For his sake, I hope he doesn't come out in traffic, because this undercut could be crucial for his race. The track actually looks to be getting a bit darker, as if almost rain's going to come back out. So, like I just said, for Bubble, I mean, I hope it doesn't start raining and his engineer's been lying to him. So I had that issue on Tuesday, where I was actually getting told the rain was getting lighter, and then the entire grid's pitted for heavy wet. Not that it matters, but we won't talk about that race. Oh, bit of lag there. The gap's 8/10. Will Magic McGee... No, actually, comes back down. Don't quite think Magic McGee will escape the DRS zone on this particular lap, but he does seem to be pulling away from Tomas as ERS is at a complete draw. Both around about the 10% mark, meaning it's all down to setup, all down to pace, and how much each driver wants this win. And from the looks of things, they both want it so very much, giving it absolutely everything so far. And Bright, the Alfa Romeo, has crashed just after turn 4 as he heads into turn 5. Thankfully keeps the car moving. That won't be a safety car, but he does spin it again. And so does Bubble, or Icecomb. Is that Bubble or Icecomb? I can't quite tell which one that is. I think it's Icecomb. 2 crashes in the final bit of Sector 1. But like I said, thankfully, no safety car. Neon comes into the pits now as he's overtaken by Bubble. And Bubble actually isn't in too much dirt yet, as every other car around him is actually a back marker. And he just sends it down the inside of the McLaren. It almost looked like the McLaren wanted to give him that place and wants Bubble to take this lead. I don't quite think it'll be... Well, it will be an undercut, obviously, but I don't actually know if you'll get ahead because the race leaders are staying out much longer than I had expected. With that call, I would have expected the race leaders to have pulled in the pits at least by the end of that last lap. Maybe they do it now, as Thomas has given it everything. Maybe calling that he's pushed for his in lap. It doesn't look like it. Bright is retired in the pits, I believe that is. So again, no threat of a safety car. But it's actually Magic McGee with the advantage on ERS up to 15% compared to Thomas is basically 0. And if Magic McGee can utilise this, he can maybe even pull out a DRS. We've got 5 DNFs in this race, and we're only 23 laps in. We've still got 12 laps left. Plenty of carnage can happen in them 12 laps alone. And for me, honestly, no matter if you're 50 seconds behind making mistakes, at any circuit like this where it's tight, basically this is basically a street circuit with its fast corners, it's lots of downforce requiring maximum precision. You can just... We've seen plenty of crashes. It just takes one safety car for you to be right back in the race. We've got plenty early DNFs, and most of them are actually just manual, so TF4 seem to be giving up. Someone who hasn't given up, may I mention, TVX Buzz, the Haas driver, up to P8 after he was sitting in P15 for the majority of his race. Hats off to him. Definitely got a bit of luck, I'd say, in the pit stops. He maybe... Neon's on Indus. I know I said it was getting a bit darker, but Neon's in intermediates and is not making a pit stop. Icecomb has retired in the middle of the track, and that looks like a manual retirement on track. And I don't really know why. This could bring out safety cars. We've also got a crash at the final corner. Icecomb's car's now disappeared, and the car on the final corner has got going. So again, no safety car. But that would have actually really benefited Neon. Just one safety car here just before the rain, as it now comes down. The rain is coming down. Neon, what's the gap for him? To the leaders, it's 30 seconds. So he's looking maybe P3, but he does get a 3-second penalty there. But I think the other drivers, if they start to come in for pits, is his tyres are going to start getting faster. This could be P4, maybe P3. So an interesting undercut call, but he's starting to struggle in anger on them soft tyres. Is actually catching Neon, and Neon does not want to give this place up because he has the faster tyres. Well, he will do soon, so if he starts getting held up by someone who's going to be on slower tyres, it's going to be costly for his race. There's Bubble and Graceful Rook into the pits for intermediate. Graceful Rook already out on them fresh tyres. Will Neon get ahead? No, he won't. Neon is not getting ahead. It looks like he's almost got damage as he struggles to get the car going through that final corner. And Anger is attacking him here. Not draining any ERS. Maybe makes a double overtake. Will he be able to get around the outside of both the Ferrari? He looks for the switchback on the Ferrari. What a move! Soft tyres in the rain. Makes the switchback on the Ferrari and even hindered at a move on the AlphaTauri. He's got so much confidence out there, this lad. He's obviously got to come into the pit soon, as the rain's just getting heavier and heavier, but he doesn't look to be struggling too bad. And for Neon, this is just costly for his race, as he's basically behind a safety car here, and everyone else is just going to get the free pit stop, taking away all the advantage that he had of his undercut. No offence, Anger, I don't mean you're a safety car as in you're slow, just obviously the tyres aren't what you want to be on at this current stage. See Neon running wide, he's struggling. And everyone at the front coming in the pits. What will we see here? Tomas stays out. Why? Grayson Rock is going to get himself into P3. He won't be able to undercut Magic McGee. Let's see how much Magic McGee gains on the leader, because it's looking at around about an 18-second pit stop, because Magic McGee and Tomas were right next to each other. Tomas stayed out. It's about an 18-second pit stop, and actually he isn't gaining that much at all. For Tomas, this could almost be beautiful. If Tomas could actually gain time somehow on this in-lap, this could be absolutely phenomenal. Oh, he's just given a full beans, but Magic McGee, he's up to 40% ERS. He's saved so much battery while sitting in P1 and basically being completely under threat. This now will actually allow him to push through these final couple of corners, and for his sake hopefully retake the race, as he's comfortably led it, and even with DRS he was able to stay ahead. So without it, Tomas won't really be able to make too much of an effort for an overtake. Here comes Magic McGee, bombing down the main straight, and he is indeed ahead of Tomas. Tomas, who's now on cold Indas, is behind by 2 seconds, and that gap will grow as he's having to push with his ERS to warm up these tyres without losing too much time to Magic McGee. And Tomas, I mean, I said it. Why? Why would you ever stay out when it's constantly raining? The rain's not just going to disappear from thin air and allow you to have a 20-second lead. That's just not how this game works. But unfortunately, he clearly just hasn't predicted that, and it's put him in an awful situation here, where he now sits P2 1 second further behind from when they came into the pits. Well, they're back down to even ERS, so this is how the race is. No one's got a real advantage here. I mean, Tomas has 1 lap fresher tyres. There's 8 laps to utilise that to try and get the gap down and make an overtake onto the race leader. There we go, he's broken the second mark, but in rainy conditions that means absolutely nothing. No DRS to play with. ERS now at a disadvantage as he has pushed and gained some time. But actually, he has gained time behind. He's put himself at a 7-second gap. So it really is just these two battling away for the race win with 7 laps left, and we've got a crash in the final sector, and we do finally see a full course safety car. On the 3rd round of a safety car, it is finally a full course, and this is going to completely change the complexity of this race. Honestly, the commentator's curse that I've put on today is mental. I've said lap 13 in my head, Harrison crashes and leads to a manual retirement. Ice Corn also crashes out the race lead, now manually retired. And I've just said it, these two lead the race. And it's not now, because they're going to have Bubble close behind, who is looking very quick. However, he's on older tyres than them, actually. But it's also going to give the back markers chances to catch up, despite all the penalties. So this will apply pressure back onto the top two, because they know if they don't get a penalty, they can very well keep their positions as 1 and 2, and one slip up may lead to that completely changing. We have actually seen quite a few penalties under a safety car, so maybe just a lapse of concentration. They need to stay very focused, continue to knock down them laps. But finally a breather, as these two have been, well, not really sending moves, but they have been going back and forth for quite a while, just gaining time, losing time all over the track. Let's watch Magic McGee, see if he sticks it in the rear of the Aston Martin safety car. Alright, safety car in this lap. Everyone finally caught back up. Here we go then. Oh, actually looked a bit slidey for Magic McGee. Tomas is only 2 tenths behind, 1 tenth behind. He's draining all the way down this straight. Goes to the outside and it doesn't. Oh. He looks to stick it. Gets much better traction. They're going to go almost wheel to wheel into the third corner. Magic McGee looks back around the outside, but he goes too wide, and this could be costly. Graceful Rook too far behind to try and stick a move. And finally, Tomos has been hunting for it, and they do indeed swap positions on the safety car restart. Magic McGee has looked, I'd say, the quicker driver throughout most of these laps, however, being able to keep him behind. But it could be a completely different story now, as Tomos is actually in the clean air, and he's also under pressure from not one, two, not one, all two drivers, but three. As Graceful Rook down to Neon chase each other very closely. And, well, I mean, yeah, look, the gap's already nearly a second. Tomos looks great in this clean air. Exactly what he needed was just to finally get ahead of Magic McGee after a complete race of stress, as he just could not make the move, and he's just edging away. Only 4 laps remain, the gap up to a second. No longer is Graceful Rook under pressure though from the cars behind, but a second gap is just, it's beautiful for Tomos. Wheel to wheel just ahead. Oh, it's a back marker, never mind. No one seems to be really making some moves. We'll just stick on Bubble in this midfield battle. What's happened there? Krobs also had a spin. It looks like when they're so far off track there, because there's so much of a runoff area, that it looks like they've just like retired themselves. But unfortunately for Krob, I believe he was just around his teammate, so in the points, not loads of points, but now sits DNF'd, and we only have 10 actual drivers remaining as Ozzymon Jones has left the session and is lapped about 3 times. The gap is slowly extending. It's actually, it looks like, is that the back marker just holding everyone up? It is. Obviously not holding anyone up because he's ghosted. Finally overtakes Krob. 2 seconds now the gap to the lead. Only 2 laps remaining. And with gap slowly extending, the only position change I see here is Bubble getting on the podium for penalties. Maybe if we pull up the penalties here, can try and do some maths. Well, actually, Buzz would get ahead of his teammate and Anger, so that would put him P7. Anger will go P9 and then no other changes, I don't think. So it's just TV Buzz up to P7, and then Signs and Anger down a place, and then Bubble to P3 also. final lap then.